So he picks up his dice, he looks me straight in the eye, and he says, "Now that's what I call drop pod racing."
Oh,
I know,
that's
right?
Smooth.
He's God amongst
I know.
men.
And then, before I can even react, all of a sudden, he's getting on a motorcycle. I don't even know where this thing came from, did not see it, revs the engine, and he's gone, driving off into the sunset.
Gosh, he's so cool.
He's like Santa
Boggins,
Claus
man.
every day.
Ogbert Boggins, Goblin Blogger. Man.
Magnificent bastard.
Wow, I really wish we would have gotten that for the podcast.
Yeah, he's a legend, man.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and get this started, all right?
Yes, it's time.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, well, hi everyone, and welcome back to episode 8 of KnightsCast.
7.
What?
It's episode 7.
Son of a...
Ben has leaped into the future.
Yes, this is from the future.
You mean you guys didn't record my 12-hour monologue for episode 7? You didn't publish
Episode
that?
7 is for Patreons only, for Patreon that we don't have.
I read the entire core rulebook aloud and you didn't publish it, you jerks!
We just keep on winning so much that we just skip 7 because
Because it's beneath us.
and it's also kind of an inauspicious number.
And isn't it also the number of Nurgle?
Yeah, none of us wanted that
none
grossness,
of us want Nurgle, so.
especially not Ben.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Yeah. Right, so back to episode 12. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you. So it's been a minute. We've missed you guys. Hopefully you've missed us too. We got a lot to talk about today, kind of just all over the place. So I guess real quickly, we'll go around and tell you kind of what we've been up to real quick. We started a campaign that we'll talk a little bit about. I don't know, what else did we do?
I mean, Will had a child. It's called a Wraith Knight.
He's not a real child, but he's my tall boy.
So do you want to tell them why you got a Wraith Knight?
Because Wraith Knights are cool.
In what game?
In Big Hammer.
Can you send that to me, please?
We're weak. We're very weak. Okay, this whole game was designed to push people toward the big game,
Which we've done.
and inevitably, and we've been fighting this for months. Three of us have taken the plunge. One of us is still holding out.
No.
A noble fight. Long may it rain.
Jesse
It's alright.
is strong of will, but soon he shall fall
I
to the
would call
darkness.
it more
It's
of
alright,
a,
I'm already
it's-
died on my sword multiple times.
It's more of
I'm good.
it's more of like a forlorn hope at this point.
Yeah,
We're kind of.
I mean, look at it though.
Yeah, no. I have a Storm Raven that I'm holding.
Yeah.
We're gonna subtitle this so the listeners will be able to hear us describe
Whoa,
what you're doing.
Ben, not listeners, glisteners, sir.
Oh no.
I am just striking out today.
How do you subtitle a podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have one of those voices like when you call a recorded line, and so will shake the thing, and it will say, "Shaking noise represents," and then it'll tell
shaking
you,
noises.
"Wraith Knight shaking inbox, pieces break, Will cries."
Wouldn't there be like hear titles instead?
I like that here title. That's $1 million
That's a
idea.
good one.
Listeners last time, hear titles this time.
Damn,
I'm on a roll.
Podcasts in Braille.
Yeah,
Oh my
we're
God.
good.
Yeah.
We're pioneers.
Yeah.
There we go.
We're pioneers and we're accessible.
I mean, we're like funny guys. We're smart. We're capable, and now we're just making new like pioneers of content.
Yeah.
Yeah. New frontiers in listening.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Listening through touch.
In the dark future of
We're so far in the weeds.
Podcasting.
We're in the weeds.
They've solved Braille.
Bro,
Yeah, and spread
it's
measles.
called TouchCast.
So,
Oh man.
No, sorry.
That's a very different podcast and probably one that I don't want to
Yeah,
produce.
can we just?
Nope.
can we-
Cannot be edited.
Are we
No.
getting
no.
into that like weird part of Twitch with the ear things and the whole?
ASMR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I would-
I get enough ASMR just because I'm the one that wears the headphones when we record. I get enough ASMR just listening to you guys
From our
for
heavy
2 hours.
breathing.
But That's what we need to do. You just rattle the box for GW players that want the new experience of opening a box. ASMR with the box.
Oh.
There you go. With snipping.
I have the God hand nippers. They make
there you
a
go.
great shearing noise when the thing comes off the
There's
sprue.
experiential theater. We're experiential podcasting.
Yeah.
Look,
I
shaking
would-
a pot.
Come.
Watch the butt off of that.
Oh, sorry.
That was really disgusting.
Was it? You can actually hear it?
I don't know if it actually picked up, but if it did, I can imagine what that sounded like, and I hate it.
Okay. So this is all obviously going to get edited out by the internet police, but in the meantime, we're having a good time. So in addition to campaign, in addition to getting our feet wet with big 40K, terrifying, I know, in addition to some discussion of a role-playing game to be brought up a little bit later, I think. So in addition to all that, we've been scouring the Kill Team news, as many of you probably have been too, and we can talk a little bit about some interesting stuff coming up. One point we wanted to get to today, while there's still plenty of room to speculate, is a little bit of discussion of the Sisters of Battle.
No.
Yeah,
So
Sisters
I'm
of
so
Battle.
excited.
Like, the internet has been... Their hackles have been in uproar for the Sisters for about a year. GW's been teasing this release.
Oh yeah.
They're at the time of this recording, they're coming out in November. We still know very little in terms of rules. We know nothing for Kill Team.
They're gonna have a lot of flamers.
They're going to have a lot of flamers.
We do officially know that they are releasing in November.
Day one, yes, they are. We do know officially from the Nova
I use the term we loosely.
GW
Okay.
thing that they do publicly to tell people about stuff. So we know that they're coming out in November. We know that it's going to be day one Kill Team support. We don't know how that's coming exactly. We don't know if it's a White Dwarf. We don't know.
How about
what's
they
going
put
on
it in
there.
the box like they did for traders and
That could
all
be
that stuff?
that could be
Oh,
very
that's
possible,
interesting.
or there could be another book. But that's what we're here to talk about, is kind of predicting what we think is.
I can make a prediction right now. They're gonna get more of my money. So
Because you are on a quest to own all Kill Teams.
Well, also, the sister. I've kind of had like a soft spot for the Sisters of Battle for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Spice Girls?
No.
Can you have
Nope.
like a baby Spice
they will-
Sister?
mine
and
are
like
going-
a scary
hairstyles
Spice-
potentially.
My,
can you
look,
do that?
my sisters are going to be
They're going to be
stalwart
platinum haired.
emperors, stalwart
Or like a
defenders
whole-
of the Imperium and the Imperial Creed. You're going to have propriety and honor, and they will not be like the Spice Girls.
So they're going to be super space nuns.
Mega Space Nuns.
Mega space nuns.
The Spice-
and there's a fist bump over Mega Space
Yeah,
nuns.
the
happening
subtitle
between
right
our-
now would say we just fist pounded because that was beautiful, Aaron. I totally.
What about
approve.
Lady Gaga? Could you do it like Lady Gaga
How
style? like
dare
doing
you,
that?
sir?
That'd be great.
Oh,
I will-
there'd be some
Fine.
really cool opportunities
Well,
there,
that's
especially with the pyro, all the
Yeah,
pyro
come
that
on.
the sisters bring.
You know what?
Oh,
You guys can
man.
do that with your Sisters of Battle. Mine will be cleaving to the Emperor for
Well,
their guidance.
I don't know about Sisters of Battle, but I just got a box of Primaris Space Marines, and I'm totally doing that with my Space Marines.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Oh, yeah,
I'm stealing
Oh
that.
my god, yeah. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk less about the cosmetic aspect of the Sisters of Battle, and let's
Word.
talk a little bit more about rules. Now, in case you're not aware, out there in listener land, Sisters of Battle, they're kind of known for being guardsmen with superior shooting and power armor, essentially, and a lot of heavy flamers, a lot of meltas, a lot of regular flamers, a lot of meltas, a lot of
Flying
heat.
units.
That's interesting.
A lot of flying units, dual bolt pistol wielding jump pack troopers.
And there's like the Sisters Penitent with their eviscerators. They're like combat crazy.
Yeah, and they've got giant chain swords. So,
Penitent engines.
in terms of Kill
Not for Kill
Team,
Team.
what?
Isn't that the thing that has the guy strapped to it?
Yeah.
Like
Oh
he's,
yeah,
ugh.
oh yeah, it's 40K.
Can I say what I think my Dark Horse model for them that they haven't talked about yet?
Go for it.
The Arco-Flagellant,
Oh yeah.
which would be terrifying.
Yeah, Arco-Flagellants are a deep cut in the 40K universe. They're basically servitors who have been combat drugged to high heaven, and they are
They
super
have like power whips and
Terrifying.
What do the old models look like? Tell us about it.
They
Crazy.
I just like doing as much visual on a podcast as we can.
the best thing that you can
It's
Google
efficient.
is what they were called.
arcoflagellant.
Google arcoflagellant inquisitors.
Okay.
Make sure you
Because
spell it correctly, but
Yeah.
you might just get a whole bunch of fart jokes.
It's just-
so that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm just thinking of this really scary thing that farts in your face and runs off.
Because
Well,
there's
that
a
works
game.
well for a
They're very
podcast.
scary.
There's a game about a decade ago where it was large scale models, and they did an arcoflagellant, and you can get a really good idea of what they look like.
Well, 'cause,
They're-
I mean,
they're pretty scary.
I'm only saying that because I was looking at the art that they released for the Sisters of Battle, and it shows all the units, and then down in the corner, killing a bunch of Tau, is an arcoflagellant.
yeah,
And I'm like, they just haven't talked about that yet.
that's interesting because they would be another troop choice.
Dear listener, you should know I just checked for you. You're welcome. They do have arcoflagellants on the internet, and they are weird looking.
Yeah, they are maybe the most alien humanoid in the game. Just pretty terrifying all around. They could potentially be an elite's choice for them.
Yeah, they'd
Whereas
be
the Sisters
gnarly.
Penitent and the regular Sisters of Battle would make up their main troops, their basic choices.
They do kind of look like a butthole with whips.
Wow.
Wow.
Sorry. It's just
That's
like
analysis.
going, yeah. Well, like it looks like the thing from Community, the flag. Like their little head garb kind of looks like a walking butthole.
I believe you are referring to E pluribus anus.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, man.
We're gonna get the explicit tag on iTunes again, guys.
My poor...
That was medical. I don't know what you're
poor
talking
Let's go all four this time.
So, okay, so we've got some Dark Horse units we're still waiting on, and that's going to be really fun to see what else gets announced.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be some cool new stuff. Is there some hope in the lore for those of you experts, Will, Aaron, I'm looking at you guys, for some like Primaris equivalent in Sisters of Battle? Is that a thing?
No. There's really the whole thing with the Sisters of Battle is that there's really no genetic engineering going on.
Oh, okay.
They are literally just
You said
women
guardsmen
in
rather than
lighter power armor. They still typically get the 3+ armor save. I don't think they'll probably change that.
They're
when
pretty much... They just have, like, less strength than Marines, right?
They're basically Imperial Guard with power
Got it.
armor with 3+ saves. So they've got strength 3, toughness 3.
They also take a lot of Stormbolters.
They take a lot of storm bolters, so there's a possibility there. I was thinking about this in the car as I was going to work this morning, that I could see their setup being a lot like the Imperial Guard in terms of you've got your basic troopers, and then you can take gunners as sort of a second option, and then you can take a special weapons squad. If they can do that, they could be potentially pretty dangerous because with the Sisters of Battle, they get access to heavy flamers, as I said, heavy and multi-meltas, which are basically longer range and stronger equivalents of the regular flamers and meltas. Multi-meltas traditionally have had 24-inch range, which means, and they're melta weapons, so anything within 12 inches is going to get that 2d6 for the damage and taking the highest, which could be pretty scary, especially if they have anything that could amplify or enhance their shooting. They're going to have comm specialists, of course, but demo specs with multi-meltas, that could be potentially a big deal. Heavy flamers, the range is slipping my mind at the moment.
I think they're 18, right?
18, so an 18-inch auto-hitting D6, I think they're generally strength 5 weapons. That could also be huge. I think
That doesn't even sound fair.
it could potentially be a big deal.
Could you imagine an arena in a hallway when you just can't get down the hallway?
Yeah, when you
Like
have
just
regular
one
Sisters of
flamer.
Battle or even Penitents,
Yeah.
like blocking the hall and you have a flamer.
Just
hitting
one of those, I
18
could hit
inches.
18. I don't even think there's a hallway that's longer than 18 inches. So if you're in that hallway, you're just...
There are, if you have doors open and you're at extreme ends, but yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I understand. So there's some potentially really, really exciting options coming for them.
I got a question about that though. So I'm not super familiar with Sisters lore. Maybe you guys can fill me and maybe our listeners in too. So My understanding is that some of the other factions in Warhammer 40,000, not Kill Team, also have access to like huge heavy weapons, multi-meltas, heavy flamers and stuff. For the most part, it seems to me like that kind of stuff hasn't filtered into Kill Team yet. So is the Sisters lore like unique in a way that would get
Yes.
them those
Yeah,
kinds of
they're very
weapons?
unique.
They
Tell
are
us about
all
it. Yeah, that's
about the
awesome.
burning.
Tell us.
They're pretty much purge the heretic. That's like their thing.
They
It's
are
like,
all about the cleansing flame. So they are. Their whole aesthetic hinges around flame, fire, heat-based weapons, which is flamers and multi-meltas.
And
They-
like big, chunky, heavy weapons.
big, chunky,
Yeah.
heavy weapons
Interesting.
and close range. They don't have access to las cannons or anything like that.
No.
They have bolters. They have flamers and the heavy equivalent of flamers and meltas.
So are they like Inquisitors, but they actually get the job
Essentially,
done?
they do work with the Inquisition quite often.
okay. So I just looked up the heavy flamer stats on something.
Yeah.
So it is kind of weird. So heavy flamers are, it says here, 8-inch range. Heavy D6, strength 5, AP -1.
AP -1, strength 5, auto hitting.
Yeah.
Especially on Overwatch, that could be a big deal.
Even
I
a
mean that
-5
that is an orc negator, essentially.
And if you have a couple of those, and then like you're gonna be running into like hand flamers, meltas. I mean, Stormbolt. I mean, I've seen what Stormbolters can do to like units like that don't have crazy good armor saves.
We'll talk
in,
about that
in
later.
Kill Team.
Yeah.
And a Stormbolter is no joke. If you have a few Stormbolters, and they're going to pump out a lot of shots.
Yeah. So I could see the basic stat for Sisters of Battle having, you can take as many sisters as you want. You can take the squad leader of the Sisters of Battle, which
Kind of canoness, but
the name is escaping me at the moment. And then you could take 2 gunners, and then I could definitely see them being able to take the option for a special weapons squad. So you could be seeing 2 to 5 of these. With multi-meltas, I'm guessing would be either 5 or 7 points. Heavy flamers being somewhere around 3. Just thinking of the way that generally these things are priced in the last couple of books.
they'll be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
And I could see base sisters being about 10 points. That'd put them 2 under regular Space Marines. That's because of the strength and toughness difference.
Yeah.
And then this might not be a big prediction, because when the beta rules for the Sisters Codex came out a couple months ago, they also had a thing called Acts of Faith. And I could see them having access to a list of things much like the Admech Canticles, much like the Imperial Guard orders that they can also draw on. The weird thing is that it requires faith, which is this weird resource that they generate throughout the game. So they could potentially be really different from everything else in Kill Team at the moment.
So, are they anything like psychic powers with this faith?
No psychic.
Okay, then they're cool.
They
So
just get like buffs.
Yeah.
So
that's
I've
fine.
got a couple of them here. I don't know anything about Sisters, so I texted Will earlier. I was like, I didn't do my homework. I don't know anything about Sisters. And Professor Will, thank you, was like, oh, you should read about Acts of Faith because they're interesting. Turns out they really are. So it looks like the way these Sisters sub-factions play also have a lot to do with the Acts of Faith. So at least a few of the Sisters sub-factions in 40K, what they do is they give you extra faith points for different types of actions. So one is like, the more of your guys die, the more points you get, because they're like martyrs. And another one is like, the more people you kill in the fight phase or something like that, the more points for faith you get. And you can expend those points basically to buy canticles, which are sort of like super tactics, So that does seem to me like a really unique mechanic that really isn't happening right now in the game at all. That is really interesting.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's gonna be like playing a weird mix between Guard and Marines, but they're also gonna be entirely their own thing. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting.
So do you think these faves are going to be like a sub game inside the main game that you can like really tailor your team to have some kind of like tricky like action or something?
Yeah.
Some kind
I
of
think
power
they'll be
move
kind
or
of
something?
like how you manage like guard and mechanicus, where you're not only playing the person across from you, you're playing your own economy, your own action economy.
Yeah.
That's
Where
a
you're
great
having
way
to
of putting
manage
it.
your
Yeah.
what am I going to do next? So you're kind of like, you're going to have to think like a move ahead of someone or two to be like, oh, I want to lure them into this, and then I'm just going to hammer them.
Yeah.
You know?
I would love to, like, this is just an idea I'm coming off the top of my head, like with demons or any kind of faction that could actually have like a sub objective in their main objectives, like, oh, I'm gonna have 3 of my guys wait 2 turns to summon a new character or something like that. Something that you can work towards as a sub faction to influence the game.
Yeah.
Because it's the main streamlined version of the game, of our taking objective, whatever, competitive player and any kind of play, which kind of probably comes into more of our campaign stuff that we've been doing recently. But any kind of thing in a main streamlined game that we can add another tactic or another objective in terms of what our team's doing, so they have their own. Because as an opponent, if I know my team, like say the Sisters of Battle have something with their faith, and if they channel their faith, they get some kind of buff. If I can, now I need to pay attention to that objective slash the objective that I'm doing. Because if I don't, I just try to play the win, then I could actually just get steamrolled in the 4th turn because they've done something special. It'd be interesting to see them do some kind of faction with that.
It would make them really complex, and it'd almost be like the game that you're playing here in your own mind, and then the game that you're playing against the other person, which is kind of interesting. It's a little 3D chess maybe for 40K, but I think
we kind of need that in this game at this point.
And it has the opportunity for them to be truly unique, rather than milling out these lists of, well, this is a unit that is this cheap.
Right.
And
Here's my
this
combat
strong.
specialist. Here's my shooters. Here's my this. Here's my that.
It's like, okay, and then let me open up the back page of the book, and here's all the things that I have to know as the person who is playing these. Not that my opponent doesn't necessarily know, but this is the game that I am playing in my own head, as well as the one that I'm playing.
And I also like these units that are like the Sisters or the Mechanicus, or the ones that don't just feel like they just come out of a box and just kind of like,
Here you go.
they're very interesting. You know, they have all these moving parts. It's kind of like, you know, I mean, I've played some weird armies, like I've played like Star Striders and like whoever, and it require you to like, you have to like really know your force and be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I kind of dig that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point I'm getting at. It's like, Star Striders and Gillerpots. Gillerpots are kind of like that too, because they have a trait that it only works in arena when you're opening doors and stuff. So that was based on that trader's set and those rules in that particular campaign box. But if you essentially do the like 2 command points, or I think it's 1 command points for a glitchling, they get +3 to their door opening and closing rolls. That's super unique only for that faction, and only like if you played against them in an arena tournament or whatever, and that you have to worry about that. You could just have one of those guys, and then they also have a move that you can remove any one of their guys anywhere on the field, and then place them 4 inches away from the enemy opponent. You could do a combination of those and lock people away. But that's my own little like sub game inside the main narrative game or the main campaign that we're playing.
I think Star Striders kind of do a similar thing. They're concussion grenades that like get completely beefed up if someone's within 1 inch of terrain, and like in arena, someone's always like, oh, that grenade's strength 5 and 2 wounds now.
But I mean, what's unique? It sounds like what would be unique about these acts of faith. Well, maybe it's better to say it sounds like these acts of faith would fit in well with, from my perspective anyway, AdMech and Guard. I think you guys have already mentioned, because both of those have these extra. This extra phase of decisions that players have to make, and the thing is that is for AdMech you have canticles, for Guard you have orders. This is an extra.
Their
weird
combat
drugs.
weird fetish stuff that they do.
Right. So that's a great point. So there are a couple of these factions that add extra rules, or add an extra sort of phase or set of decisions that a player has to make that are unlike other tactics and stuff like this. The thing about Sisters that Jesse was saying about adding this sub-game, the concern there would be if as a player I show up and want to play against a faction I've never played before, do I need to like spend 30 minutes doing homework beforehand to figure out what they need to do. And I think the thing about these acts of faith is they actually look pretty straightforward. It is streamlined, which is exactly what you started off saying,
Like,
which is great.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, it's kind of the things when you're in a tournament and I'm playing against a new team or whatever. It's like, oh, what are your tactics? You know, like it would be something very similar to that. Like, oh, like it would be an honor-based thing because I'm sure someone could be a little crappy and be like, I'm going to do this thing against a new player and they're never going to know what's going to happen. And here comes my giant monster that's rampaging or whatever my new strength is from the faith.
There's some interesting stuff. Like there's one faction that like the Order of the Valorious Heart that gets a 6-up FNP.
Yeah.
Which then you have you have a bunch of pious Vorns running around.
FNP?
Feel no
Feel
pain.
no pain.
Oh, gotcha.
Which is kind of like
The Death Guard
secondary
special,
invuln.
essentially.
Yeah.
So snake bites for orcs have that too. I feel like there are a lot of factions that do that kind of stuff. And it looks like the Sisters factions have some really interesting buffs like that. Yeah, that's very cool.
I personally, and this will probably go into one of our later conversations in this podcast, is I personally would love to see factions have more unique style inside their faction.
He's talking about Warhammer 40,000. He just doesn't know it yet.
No.
I'm slowly gonna start building
We're gonna slowly fish you in,
right?
and they'll be like,
you know
"Hey,
what?
we're playing Kill Team with hundreds of models."
Well, I would be interested in it more if that's actually the case because I mean, not gonna lie, Kill Team when you have the same armies and the same mechanics for everything and nothing really unique about the army, it kind of gets boring.
Yeah.
And,
speaking of some new additions,
Really quickly, I just let's talk a little bit about the models for the Sisters because I know they've been slowly spoiling them, and I know there's some excitement.
Their box is gorgeous.
Yeah, the box is fantastic.
I would just take the box, like seriously. I would just cut that off and
Games Workshop has really like the love that they've shown like this. They've really stepped up the art as far as I'm concerned in this department.
So if you want to sell a listener on Sisters, to be honest, I'm not crazy about the Sisters of Battle concept. If you want to sell a listener on Sisters, what model should I look at that's going to be like, oh man, this sells me on it? What do I want to Google?
The organ tank.
The
one where it's literally an organ missile launcher.
I think for new items.
We did
That's not what I was thinking.
No.
That's not what I was thinking.
Mine, I think the Sister Hospitaler, the new one, where it's like their apothecary and it's this medic standing over the broken body of one of her sisters that I think is the most evocative model I've ever seen GW put out. It's a beautiful, like, I mean,
That's
just
really
to
cool.
paint that model, like, would be amazing.
Oh yeah,
All right, I'm sold. I take back everything I said.
A visual aesthetic that
And these new
is so
models,
different from everybody else.
I
Yeah,
think
these
it's-
are all new.
These
it's
new
amazing.
models are really kind of captivating.
They're fantastic.
Because I was looking at Sisters before recently on eBay or whatever, and they were the metal ones, or I was like, oh, they're kind of crude and like not like but
These
look
ones,
gorgeous.
like even the basic Sisters have such a personality. Every single model.
I think they just kind of they exude that like Baroque, like late medieval Catholic Church kind of thing, where it's just this everything is like overly ornamented, but in like kind of this awesomely excessive way.
They're like walking cathedrals.
Yeah, and I am with Will that the organ tank is kind of very evocative. It's like, or the I think Seraphim squads.
The Seraphim are
with
really
the
cool.
wings.
Yeah, the angelic sisters
man.
with jump packs, and they've got twin bolt pistols or twin hand flamers. Yeah, they've got a style all their own, and it's been 20 years in the making of them having their own plastic range. So whether or not you're playing Big Hammer, I think they're gonna be worth checking out. If nothing else, they'll be a showpiece.
I would be interested if we are going our Big Hammer route. I might actually buy that sister box and just have that be my like.
Well, the thing
Fist
is,
bump.
there's a fist bump because we're not gonna explode your eardrums with a high five
we
here
didn't
on
do it last
KnightsCast.
time. We did the silent clap.
Yeah, I know you did.
know,
I know. We are preserving our listeners' eardrums, and I'm sure they appreciate it as well as I appreciate
kinda
it
wanna do it
because
like
y'all are
just
getting
for-
beamed directly into my brain.
And for me, like personally, amongst all of us, like I'm just so excited that the Marines and the Sisters, like my two favorite factions of all time, have become so cool now.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for Will's Eldar to finally get new models after a quarter century or something.
Yes. The
No more fine cast.
well, we're still waiting on those warp spiders who've been keeping it real since 1993. But speaking of unique kill team factions getting their own rules, we have got the latest White Dwarf in front of us with rules from the Blackstone Fortress Escalation set.
I'm just going to step back and I'm going to let Ben, because he's vibrating with excitement
Ben
over
has
a
got
particular character.
some opinions.
If we were subtitling this part for you, it would say that Jesse is holding me back so that I don't leap on the microphone. He's not actually. I'm under control. But yeah, so my hot take is as follows. Gotfret de Montbard, who is the Crusader he's got a power sword and a storm shield. He's an Astra Militarum model. He costs 20 points. I say he's gonna upend everything. Right?
So
Jesse is seeing this for the first time.
Listeners, I have not seen this book at all. Will just handed it to me. What do you mean he's a specialist retainer and he's a combat specialist? It doesn't count towards your specialist and your kills.
Specialist retainers are the best thing to happen to any
So
unmodified
it's
hero of
Star
6.
Striders all over again, yeah. So he's got 5 attacks, because he's got 4 on the page, plus he's a combat specialist. He's got 3 wounds, or 4. Jesse, can you confirm that?
He has 3 wounds.
3 wounds and a 3+ save.
3+ invulnerable
He's
save.
20
3+
points?
invulnerable save, excuse me. Yeah, he's 20 points.
And a power sword.
20 points and worth every penny of it. Again, he's got 5 attacks with a power sword. Strength 3, which, well, Will can tell you about his
the
qualms.
biggest stink face that I can, because being a player who plays a lot of strength toughness 3, it's a big drawback, and there's nothing to boost his strength. You can't even take him as a zealot to get him a 4. That's just me. He's wounding on 5s on most things in this universe.
He's got 5 attacks.
Like,
Got 5 attacks, man.
Still-
Can I piggyback off Ben here? I think if you tied a unit up with Godfrey,
Yep.
and then you charge Pious Vorn in, they're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Godfrey de Montbard. That's what I'm saying. How...
Sick burn. Sick burn.
he has
A lot
a
of fart
3+
humor today.
invulnerability
Yeah.
save.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. He's a tank. He
Yeah.
even has a sword and shield. All he's doing is sitting
Sure,
there.
get him into combat.
But just you get him in the combat.
Get him into combat.
He's
Sure,
a
get him
wound
there.
killer. He has 5 attacks at 3, and most of theirs at 3, so you're already rolling 3.
6
He
is
would
to wound
kill-
explode.
Yeah.
He's a combat spec, so if
Okay.
anyone goes first, you
He's
can pay
a-
your 1 point, and he
I
goes
will
second.
give this. I will give you this against Electro Priests on Mechanicus.
Bam.
He's going to own face.
That's great, because tomorrow I'm bringing him to a tournament. So
Really?
this book, I got this book. Yeah. So this is. We should back up. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think Will said
people
this.
in the future.
So,
This is
I think Will said
Episode
this
9.
already. So this is a new version of White Dwarf that just came out like this week. I picked it up yesterday in my local game store, and I'm going to a tournament tomorrow. I've never played Imperial Guard, and I've only played Imperial Guard a few times in Kill Team in a campaign that was like totally hectic. So I don't have a lot of experience with Guard, but I'm bringing Guard tomorrow to a tournament with a lot of really good players, and it's an arena tournament. I intend to walk out of there with just a pile of blood on Gotfret de Montbard's base. I'm also bringing Pious Vorn in this tournament. I'm also bringing a Tempestor with a Power Fist. So I'm playing Guard, and I'm going to wreck face in the fight phase. That's my plan. And I will,
is a close combat faction.
that's right. I'll keep you posted, but I think it's going to be fun.
I will say from a future segment, I have been playing Guard as a close combat-esque faction
Word.
in our upcoming discussion about the campaign, and they do quite well.
Yeah, but you're relying on Ogrins, right? Bulgrins.
Bulgrin and Pious Vorn, and the Tempestor with the Power Fist is nothing to snort at. He's
Yeah.
just his threat is.
We'll see how this comes down.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, you should definitely keep us posted on that. We're gonna check in with you next episode.
Yeah.
And find out how that goes.
I'm so proud of you.
But basically, I throw down the gauntlet to anybody out there. If you're a real competitive player, if you're like
Oh, here goes.
top tier, you know what you take?
I feel the warp.
X101.
Oh man, that
Not where
poor.
I thought you were going with this.
Take X101, cowards.
Man,
That's what I
he's a
say.
bad. That's a
He's
poor
not-
choice, man.
He's not great.
People when you see that grab gun, just go grab gun.
You know, if you wanna put down some models on a table, and you wanna look somebody into the eye, and just let them know that
Just
you're
say,
a crazy man
I don't
that
give
has
a-
nothing to lose.
I don't
you
give
drop
a
an
F.
X101 on the table.
I don't even care.
Okay, so if you
Points
don't,
be damned.
Oh no, I take him.
you
What?
take him. What?
Yeah, 10 points. Yeah, 10 points. And then he has a graph hammer.
But he's 10 points? Okay,
He's
that kind
10.
But the
No,
here it is. Graph gun, 18-inch rapid fire 1, 5 strength minus 3 AP. If the target has a save characteristic of 3+ or better, that model has a damage characteristic.
He hits on a
of. It's
5+.
It's a 5+. I'm.
Yeah,
I'm
hope they're
still-
standing in the
For
open.
10 points.
But you can do a comm splash. You
I
can do
can
other things
take
to
a
it.
guardian for 7 points that hits on a 3+ and has a much higher potential of doing damage.
How
than
much does
that.
it do D3 though?
What?
Like D3 damage?
D3 damage
save
if
three-
it has a 3+ armor save, which
So
will
it's
come in
okay.
handy in some situations, but it's a
Okay.
5+. And most of the time you're gonna only hit on a 6.
Okay, Will wants to throw it on the gauntlet and say the X101.
That's what I'm saying. Take X101 if you actually
Real
mean
stalwart
business.
heroes take X101.
Yeah.
I would love to play a game against X101. It's just a normal arena game, 125 points. I think I could beat an X101 team with only D4s to roll. So that's how
Take
far I'll go.
X101.
He's bad.
fools. Yeah. He's pointing out mind lock. X101 has a weapon skill and ballistic skill
Right.
characteristic of 4+ and a leadership characteristic of
Yeah.
9, whilst it is within 6 inches of any tech priest, which you can only
Great
take
in
in Commander
games. Killing it in Commander. Bam!
That makes my heart
I
hurt.
thought
Like so much of this
tech
whole
priests were
book
the-
makes my heart hurt.
No, those are Skitari. The tech priests are the commander units in AdMac.
They look like monsters. In case
Yeah.
you're wondering, they look like a weird arachnid creature.
Oh, those are Electro Priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would they have two things called Priest? Just saying.
Because I mean, that's Mechanicus, and they're just weirdos.
Jeez.
Like, I mean, look,
I totally had a whole army in my head set
Oh,
in
right.
that second. I was like, Electro Priest? Like, of course, I'd take like 5 Electro Priests and one of this guy.
Yeah.
like
He'd
I'm
melt
super
anything.
stoked for Godfrey.
gonna be
But the
amazing.
thing that I think is just such a misstep to my heart is you have a sanctioned psyker that is a commander.
Yeah.
First of all, in the lore, if you're just going from a pure fluff perspective, ain't no guard unit gonna be commanded by their sanctioned psyker. No, not even a penal legion.
There's going to be a
folks.
commissar standing
Yeah.
5 feet away with a las pistol
times.
at all times.
So, like, I don't understand, and plus it would give the guard access to like psychic powers, which would just be super cool. And we're gonna get into this in a minute. More units need psychic phase.
Yeah. Okay. So, do we want to get into this now?
I think it's time.
Okay. So,
time.
yeah, that would. I think this is a golden opportunity for Games Workshop to give Guard a psyker unit that was non-commander. It was a.
He's a commander,
It
yeah.
could have been a bold first step in a brave new world in Kill Team, and I think we're going to talk about it right about now. Let's all talk about mind bullets. That sweet psychic
Cybolt,
phase
man.
that up until elites was non-existent.
I just felt the hairs on the back of my neck get angry.
Your hackles got
like
no.
the hairs themselves got
So,
angry. in
listeners, if
Oh, that wasn't the warp joke. I
No,
thought that was a
that
warp
was
joke,
me.
but that
No,
was
that's me.
actually
No.
real.
if,
Sorry.
if,
yeah.
if
brain
experientially
vessel
listeners, you want to feel what Jesse's feeling, and I do not recommend you do this, like touch an electric socket
yeah,
Yeah.
the
and
sprinklers,
while you're wet.
yeah.
And that's what Jesse feels.
Do you
I
want
can sort of play the role of our audience here. So I wasn't there, but I heard that you had a tough time with the psychic phase. What's up, Jesse?
The psychic phase. how can I put this politely without getting an explicit rating on this podcast?
Explidit's fine.
Explicit's fine?
What?
Okay.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
I said the word
Okay.
Explidit. It's our new
Okay.
word for the
My
show.
nephew
Explidit.
listens to this show,
I
sir,
believe
and I
that
will
is-
not have his mind poisoned by your film.
Look,
No,
Jesse makes
Aaron
a
was
new
just talking about a
word.
piece of IKEA furniture.
Okay.
Jesse makes a new word per show. He had Glistener last time. He gets Explidit today.
Explidit.
Go.
Okay.
Oh, explit. Oh, that wasn't a word. Oh,
That's your new
crap.
word.
Okay. Okay. Oh, shortening. I'm really
It's called
upset.
powering now.
Power. Oh, power. Thank you, Aberbogenbogenboger. I can't remember that.
Listener, I wish you could see Ben's. He looks just so proud. But Jesse, go.
All
Okay,
right,
let's
Jesse,
get
go.
back into it. Okay. No, I hate the psychic phase. I think the psychic phase actually ruins the game in a lot of cases because a lot of factions don't have psychic. It is an unfair advantage and a handicap for most people with the psychic phase. That is my personal opinion on this podcast. So you can send your hate mail directly towards me via the Instagram, Twitter, and Gmail that I have no access to nor pay attention to.
So two of those things go directly to me, so I'm ready for it.
So don't do it. But no, seriously, I mean, I think the psychic phase is frustrating at this point because not every faction has an answer to it. Now, if everyone could deny the witch, psychic phase would be fine with me.
Yeah.
I do not think it's fair in the current setting of our this current core rules of the game to have psychic phase for one faction and not the other.
And in
without
our
having
particular
an answer.
meta, too.
And this is
in our
largely
group.
because of
Yeah.
elites, because of the
Yeah.
fact that a number of factions got the ability to cast Cybele twice in a psychic phase. Notably, primarily, Grey Knights are the problem here because any one of their models is a psyker. Any one of their models can cast Cybele.
Dear listeners, I know in the previous podcast we said there was no meta and that we'd die on this hill. I am on my sword as I say this. Grey Knights are easily, to me, even though we can also talk about certain outcomes of tournaments,
Which we'll
which
talk
we'll
about
talk
later.
about later, is a meta in a way. I mean, it's really hard to answer to them. They get 2 psychics, their guys are actually really good, and to be honest, they're cheap to buy. So all of these things make them a viable team for anyone walking into a store and going, I want a good team, I want it cheap, and I want it now.
Well,
like, it is totally
They're
on
kind
the
of your
shelf.
one-stop shop. I mean,
Yeah.
they're psychers. They all have crazy good power weapons, force weapons, and Nemesis force weapons specifically. And every single one has a Stormbolter, which I don't care what anyone says. A Stormbolter is a very good gun and a 3-up armor save. You've got tactics on your side. Heed the prognosticars, which gives you a +1 to your save characteristic. I mean, you're dealing with a
There's some
pretty
good stuff.
hard-hitting force.
The only downside to them would be their model count. But you know what? Your model count's fine if your guys don't die.
With 125, you
Like,
can take a lot of those
you can
basic
take
Grey
a lot
Knights.
of those guys. Like, I think 6?
7.
7?
I think-
That's a
I
lot.
don't think you can take 7.
You can take
I think
6.
it's 6.
Ben and I have a case in point if you want to talk about it. I know it's hard.
I'm just
Dude,
biting
listen.
back the tears right now. Yeah, tell him about it. Tell him about it.
So last week when we actually got to play with one of our listeners.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Paladin
Oh,
Paladin
Fluff.
Fluff.
Yeah.
It was
Thanks for
great.
coming out.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
It was
and
awesome.
hanging with us. But he
get back to
was
that, yeah.
well. Yeah, we'll get back to that in a bit. But yeah, Ben and I were at a friendly local game shop, and I decided to throw down my Grey Knights force of 6 models against Ben's 20 orcs, 19 orcs.
It was up there. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was quite a few.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say, well, I'm not sorry to say it, I kind of tabled Ben.
He did not table me. He did not table me. I got 1 kill because of Nasher Squig. I got 1 kill. It was
Wait.
glorious. Everything's
Master Swing
fine.
is the one thing.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh,
that's
no.
like literally like the one-stop shop for you.
Yeah, that's like the,
it was the
that's
1
the
kill.
emergency
That's
like parachute.
that Squig has probably more kills than any other model on your dual team.
And for my money, like the psychic phase was great, but man, the amount of firepower I was shooting at him
Yeah.
was, I mean, Stormbolters at half range, 4 shots hitting on 3s is against armors with not a good save is pretty pretty good. I mean, it ain't bad. Psychic's fine, but Stormbolters and bringing in an Incinerator, which is a Mega Flamer,
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's just I got so many things to say.
Yeah.
but it's not.
They're very good. Like,
Now,
they're very good
now
models.
let's take a walk around the rest of the factions in Kill Team that have Psychic Phase. Okay, we have Servants of the Abyss. They have one Psyker model that they can take per Kill Team. Correct?
Yeah.
We
No,
have,
you can take more than one. There's
Oh,
really
you can take
expensive.
more than one just
Yeah.
if you
20 points or
if you
something like
can.
that?
Yeah, they're very expensive. Yeah.
But can they cast Cybolt?
No.
twice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
They can't cast it more than once.
Because there's only, as far as I'm aware, there's only 2 factions that have Brotherhood of the Psyker, and that's Grey Knights and that's Thousand Suns.
That Psyker though is quite a strong model, if I remember correctly.
He's a 3
Yeah.
wound
Lot of
model.
wounds.
He's a 3-wound
Yeah,
model,
I believe
so
his weapon is decent too.
also perils on all doubles though.
Yeah.
It's not just 2s and 12s. It's every doubles he
Oh,
perils.
but you can-
But he has the
so
3
you can
wounds
use it
that
as a
kind of
bomb.
You
offsets
can also
that.
re-roll whenever you want with him too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he's high risk, high reward, and he's also very good.
Yeah. So you have Servants of the Abyss. They have their Psyker option. You have Thousand Suns, who do have Brotherhood of Sorcerers, but you pay 38 points for the privilege of getting that second Cybolt, which is pretty extreme. Like, I've run Thousand Suns, and I find that Terminator Sorcerer to be pretty prohibitive.
Thousand Suns is the one Psyker team that I will say Psychic doesn't feel overwhelming. And that's just because Thousand Suns need a little bit more love in a lot of
A little
cases.
bit. Their range is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take many of them. They
They-
do have the
that's-
Brotherhood of Sorcerers, but you have to pay for it, and it's really restrictive.
Yeah, but I
think
mean, it seems, again, unbalanced, but it seems weird that Grey Knights can take 2 for 10
The
points.
thing with Grey Knights is their
or
threat
whatever.
range with Cybolt's crazy because you can be all over the board.
21 inches,
And you're everywhere.
No, it's 18 inches.
It's-
Oh,
it's-
no,
No,
you
they get a
bonus?
boost. They
See?
get a boost. Thousand Suns get a boost as well. Excuse me. So Thousand Suns, you get the second Cybolt, but you do pay a premium for it.
It costs a lot, 40 points, but that seems balanced.
It seems balanced. With Grey Knights, just being able to take the basic guys and take 2 Cybolts per,
Okay.
it's. I feel like it should almost be a tactic that you pay for in command points. Like, you want to cast it a second time, pay 1 CP, pay 2 CP, then you can cast Cybolt
I
again.
feel like that would be fair, because if you think about it, so if you haven't could tell listeners, I've played Grey Knights recently, and I am very bitter about it. So I will put that as a forlorn into my statements. Forlorn? What's that word?
It's another
That's
word.
another
Words.
word.
Forlorn.
I'm just gonna make up words the rest of the night.
Okay.
So, so what I'm saying is, so they get two phases. They're almost guaranteed to kill 2 models that turn because they also get a +1 to the rolls, and they just need a 5 to actually
Yeah.
hit. So then you're just doing your injury roll, which hopefully they get a flesh wound. I mean, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
So at least you're gonna get 2 flesh wounds before you even start shooting.
Yeah.
So
And then you're going to shoot a ton.
then you're gonna shoot a ton. They
Yeah.
shoot a ton, and then even if they don't shoot and they're in combat, they're probably gonna have the Falcon. What's it?
The Falchions.
The Falchions.
I mean, you didn't even. In my experience, I mean, I would just take the Nemesis Force Sword. I mean, any Nemesis weapon, they're all D3 damage, man, with -3.
but the Falchions give you the extra
attack, yeah.
so you get
Yeah.
3 attacks.
Yeah.
They're
They're an elite force, and I think the second Cybolt just kind of pushes them a little bit over the edge. They needed something before elites, because before elites, when it was a 100-point cap, you could take 4 of them. They had 1 Cybolt, and they were in a bad way. Now they're a little too far.
I'm not gonna lie. The
direction.
only thing they really got in elites was this ability.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't
the-
take a paladin. You don't.
You're never gonna take Terminators.
And then most people, the rest of the things are commanders.
Yeah.
So you're not going to play those in normal games. So really, they just got this one overpowered
Well, you also bring an extra
faction
body
trait.
too,
And an extra
which
body.
kind of changes a lot.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about them being overpowered in the meta a little later on when we talk about Nova results, but we'll
But-
save
Yeah,
that till
it's a
later.
toss.
But along these lines, what is maybe worth saying now, so the tournament that you were at where you were playing Grey
Yeah.
Knights, that you had this kind of frustrating time,
Yeah.
was that an arena tournament or an
Arena?
open tournament?
It was arena.
Yeah, it was Arena. As you
Okay.
can tell, I blocked it from my memory.
I
Yeah, that tournament we did not do well.
Which
Sorry
is-
to let
which
down
is-
you guys, but
Yeah.
the KnightsCast guys did not do well.
Which
I
is
got
fine. But also
last.
shout out to all of our friends and also fellow community members that did do well in that tournament.
And shout out to
Really
Emmanuel of Dark Side Games for setting up that tournament.
Yeah,
It was a
well
great,
done.
Yeah, it was a
Really,
great
really well
tournament,
done.
and like, I mean, it was fun to be at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wish I did better, but I mean, you're not gonna win everything.
yeah.
So,
What was it?
are there? Do you think that they're better in arena or better in open? Do you think there are things that players should know to like?
so-
Have you been thinking about like what you could have done differently? Or I mean, it really sounds like what you're
Yeah.
saying is that there's
Well,
not that
okay,
much you
so-
could have
so
done.
in the first tournament, in the first game of that against Grey Knights, because that was my first matchup,
Mm-hmm.
I was playing against a really skilled opponent that we all play against a lot. I messed up some key elements in my first couple moves because I was rusty and hadn't played the game in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was a lot of misplay.
Huh.
Now I will say that then I was playing Necrons and I was playing my shooting army versus a melee army. There are a lot of other components into it. But I will say, when the psychic phase came around, I was losing a guy each turn,
Which
and
you
it was
can't do
already
with Necrons.
close to model counts. With Necrons, it's really hard, and especially holding objectives or whatever. So it was psychic phase. It was just like, oh great, yeah, take 2 of my models, and I'm just gonna sit here and I can't do anything about it. So this sounds fun. Like I guess that's my main proprietary moment against psychic phase. Like this is
Yeah.
my stamp.
Yeah.
It's not fun. Psychic phase is not fun if you don't have psychic. Now, if I could deny the witch, or if I could do anything to actually have a chance against their roll, I would feel like it was fair.
If only there was a way to get custom war gear in the games we were playing.
Oh.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Wouldn't that be interesting? It'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So like this is a campaign joke that I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit as well.
We'll get there. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
interesting, though. Okay.
Ways to fight against it, and I've been thinking about it because we got SEO coming up, and we're going to talk about our SEO prep in the second half. It's tough because I'm not entirely sure what you do. You almost need chaff to like throw at them because the thing with Cybele is that you have to. It has to target the nearest enemy model. So if you had a lot of like cheap expendable units, which some do.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Jesse
it
and I
doesn't
are
work.
both.
It doesn't. So you're probably better to talk about because you've actually played in the game against Aaron with multiple models to it.
I was 100% Shav.
That's right. Because it's not just the psychic phase you have to worry about. You have to worry about their shooting. You have to worry
Yeah,
about
but-
the melee. They
yeah,
also
yeah.
are really good at shooting and really good at hitting, and they also don't die because they 3, like a 3+ save. That's most psychic people around the board, except for demons and they're pink ones, and they just die.
Yeah.
But and then you get 2 psychers, which sounds fair. But I tried in my second game against Grey Knights in that tournament. I tried to quarantine the Grey Knights and just throw one guy to the shaft and keep everyone away, and then tried to like balance it that way. So they'd only target the one model. It still ended up being a mess because even if I held multiple models, I was still having to compete with higher number counts because it was elites.
Yeah.
And their extraordinary melee and shooting.
Yeah.
Like if they're just balanced.
Yeah, it's a hard one, and it's maybe something we didn't think about before we really started seeing them in the wild in a big way.
I think Dear Ben might have a counter to that, an actual hard counter.
I'm
I think
so glad you bring
I
this up.
think Gotfried
Bam. Yep.
and I think Pious Vorn.
Yep.
Both of those models, Cybolt them all day long.
Multi-wound.
Because and also Pious Vorn has her feel no pain.
Right.
She has no armor, but she has exactly what you want against Cybele. You're totally right.
But it's
Yeah.
a 5+.
So
It's
with guard.
still worth having.
So here's the deal, right? For me, as an orc player, so I played a game with Aaron the other day, as he just mentioned. He mulched me. I brought like 20 orcs. The game ended. I had 0 orcs on the table.
And it ended by like turn 3, didn't it?
Oh, rub it in, you jerk.
I'm sorry, I was
Good
right
day, sir.
there. I was seeing
not
it
pretty.
happen.
Yeah, it was not pretty. So, with orcs, I'm kind of still trying to figure it out what to do about Grey Knights. But with Guard, what I want to try tomorrow, because I expect to face Grey Knights, and this is like, your
I'm
meta right
sure
here.
you're gonna fight 5 Grey Knights tomorrow after what we've seen.
Yeah. So what I want to do is, with guard, I want to put some Chaffee guard up close because they still have to pick the closest model. And I know what you're saying. Any of the Grey Knights can Cybolt, therefore they have more choices than if they only had one Cybolting model. But they've only got 6 models on the table, and what that means is I can still dictate. If I've got maybe 4 or 5 models to spread around as Chaff, I can still dictate who are going to be their options and who are not. So I can put a couple of Chaff guys close to them. I tried to do this with Aaron, it's just I didn't have anything to actually hit with after I was able to dictate who he would hit. So I want to put a couple of Chaffee models up close, and then I want to put Meltaguns. Many Meltaguns.
Meltagun's
within
good.
12 inches.
Yeah, Meltagun.
Yeah.
6 if he can get it.
Right.
Can I say something?
Please, yeah.
I think plasma. If I'm saying it against Marines.
Meltaguns will burn through a Marine if you can get them within 6. I've started taking fusion guns a lot more with my Eldar because they're essentially Meltaguns. You want to take those against Marines.
I'm just still reacting to what I perceive to be the non-existent but real sounding meta, which is that I still don't want to run plasma if I can help it, because I feel like people expect me to, and I feel like plasma is supposed to be good, and I want to prove that wrong.
Are you bringing Scions?
I'm bringing 1 Tempestor, that's
Okay.
it. But I'm bringing 4 Meltas.
No, I think
We've reached the point in this game where we're trying not to fight meta with meta inside meta.
Yeah, we are our own meta.
We're just
You can call that what you want, but as I see it, this is the fun here.
Try meta.
We know what people keep saying is good, and we're here trying to experiment and trying to push the game in new directions. And from my perspective, that's a huge, that's a ton of fun.
Okay, so this is something that this is getting off topic, but this
Please,
is
yeah.
going back to somebody that you're taking
Our
tomorrow.
poor listeners. Yeah.
Mr. Gotfret de Montbard.
Right on.
I will respect him by saying his proper
I mean, I
name.
just like his name.
All right, so
For tomorrow, I'm using a different model because I don't have that model. So I'm naming him Gale, and I'm using the one of the Stormcast Eternals from Warhammer Underworld.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
his name is no longer Gotfret de Montbard, it's actually Gale. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so going back to our whole thing about strength 3, toughness 3, we thought this might be fun. So let's do a little experiment right now.
Yes.
Right in front of you, you have a Chessex jewel case of dice.
do
So let's
experiential podcasting,
the
folks.
experiential podcasting. That's what we're all about now.
It's like I'm really there.
So take 5 dice, and we're gonna see how you would do against, let's say, a Grey Knight. So you're talking toughness 4, you're talking a 3-up save, and you are a combat specialist. You've managed to get Gilbert Gottfried into hand-to-hand combat. Let's see those rolls.
All right. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to assume that my leader is not within 12 inches, and therefore that I didn't fix bayonet. So I'm only going to be fighting once this turn. Although between you and me, that's not how it's going to go down tomorrow. But anyway, here we go. Let's roll. I got 5 dice right here. Shaking
You
them.
can hear them being shaken. We are all here to verify. We have Jesse filming these results. I'm sure that this will hit Instagram.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Oh, off the table.
1 down.
Wow.
Okay, well that's a
Okay, now that is
That's
an
a-
above
that's
average roll. Oh, you're just gonna shoot me to pieces, aren't you, Ben? Okay. So he hit 5 times, great. Oh, but he actually, you've got 3
No, I think 6
sixes.
explodes to
6s
wound, I
explode.
believe.
Oh, this is not gonna go well.
Each unmodified hit roll explodes. Oh no!
Okay,
So here's what you need to know, dear listener. I got a stupid good roll because the Emperor protects. So I rolled a 4, a 5, and 3 6s. Yeah, that's right. I cheat and I do it on camera. I'm rolling my additional 3 dice because 6s to hit explode for Gotfret.
I think you just get 2 extra attacks, don't you? excuse us while we.
I'm so sorry. I got 8 hits on my 5 attacks.
Yeah.
So that's what just happened there. Now we're gonna roll to wound. So I got a power sword right here.
Okay. Now you
And,
wound on a 5-up.
I wound on a 5-up, so I'm just gonna take 8 dice because we came prepared. So I just got my 8 dice right here. I'm wounded on 5s up.
1 wound.
I did get 1 wound.
1
wow.
wound.
All right, so I just rolled 5 1s, 2 2s, and a 5.
So you had above average hit.
So
below average.
On a gray night.
On a gray night.
So
6
3.
plus to
So I
save.
need a 6 to save. Aaron is rolling.
Because it's -3?
A 1. Okay.
Yes!
So
in your face!
Now roll the injury roll.
All right, so I got my 1 injury roll, my power sword, excuse me, is a 1 damage weapon, as you may know. So on a 4, 5, or 6, I'm gonna kill me a Grey Knight. Here goes.
Go for it.
Here goes. We're not gonna use any command points.
Yeah.
Because we don't need
Right.
to.
Flesh wound. Now, Jesse, if in this theoretical situation, let's go back in time and let's discuss and let's show what happens when Gotfret de Montbard gets hit with 2 Cybolts.
Bam.
Roll some dice.
Well,
I need
and then
2
you gotta
seconds.
try and kill
So
him with
just
your
You need a 5 up.
5 up?
5 up. Okay,
Oh, look,
that goes
6.
off.
That's
Okay,
good.
so he's down to 2 wounds.
So he is the
So,
closest model to
2
2 enemies, is what you're saying.
Which is
Fine.
always going to be the
I'll
case
take
with
it.
Grey
It's a
Knights.
shield. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I
So
need
this
another
is the
6
second
up.
Cybolt. Okay,
Oh,
so
that
you
one
didn't
failed.
get the second
That's
Cybolt.
fine.
Okay.
That's
So
surprising.
basically what we've
So
proven here is absolutely nothing.
That we all
No.
second roll it.
No.
So he has 2 wounds, right?
He has 3 wounds.
3 wounds. Okay.
So Gotfret just inflicted him a flesh wound.
A flesh wound.
He
Yeah.
just went down to 2
Which
wounds.
Grey Knights can ignore
But-
because they have transhuman physiology.
Absolutely. So what Gotfret has effectively done is he's tied up an enemy model for a turn. He's got a 3+ invuln save, so
he
we
would
could
get the save against the one.
not against your
against
Cybolt, no, but he's going to get the
see,
save
that's what I'm
against
saying,
your
it's
other
broken.
attacks.
The case closed.
Case closed. Case closed. Argument
Okay,
over.
but here's
No,
the
but
other thing.
he's
Here's
going
the
to
other
save
thing.
against your other attack, so what's going to happen is at the end of the turn, he is still going to be right
Wait.
there. Yeah.
No, it won't.
Uh-oh.
Because we just rolled the attack roll
Yeah.
before the psychic phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would at least have 1.
Hit it. Go for it.
And you would have had that attack. And most likely I would have at least 2 Grey Knights next year because I got 2 Cybolts.
Yeah.
So that means what at Falchions? 3 attacks,
3
hitting on
attacks.
3s?
3 attacks, hitting on 3s.
Okay, so
We are
it's-
playing a live game of Kill
Yeah.
Team,
Wait,
you ladies and
this is-
gentlemen. This is
this is-
exciting new
I mean,
territory.
you've thrown him into the gladiator pit. This is the most
Okay.
lopsided fight ever, but I still think he's going to be
Okay.
fine.
So,
Okay, so there's 2 wounds.
2 wounds,
2.
going through.
Okay, so you're going to
wounding
wound
on
on 3s.
3s, so hit now on 3s.
And that's 1
At
wound.
least
one
and
wound.
now D3
Okay.
damage.
So first I'm going to
But
roll my
save.
save, so a 3+
Oh, yeah.
invuln save. And
Save.
again, we are
It's a
not
good
using
one, yeah.
command points.
So you would say.
Okay, you saved one down. Let's see what that second Grey Knight can
That's
do.
pretty balanced.
Let's
So,
see what that
you-
second Grey Knight can do, man. No, let's go through this.
Okay,
Come on.
Okay, but I do want to say this. It's a character
It's too good.
in White Dwarf. There is no character currently in the game outside of that White Dwarf that
Yeah.
would have this.
Yeah.
Alright, so 2 attacks. No, 3 attacks if I'm doing
Same
Falchion.
thing,
So
yeah.
2 Falchions. Okay,
2
2
hits.
hits. Hitting on 3s
Three.
again. 1 hit.
One wound.
1 wound. So saving on 3.
Here goes. Again, no command
No
points.
command points. Okay.
And saves.
So at the end of
Okay.
the turn, Gotfret has tied up 2 of your 6 models.
enough.
Who knows where? Pious Vorn, we don't know where she is, but apparently she's not in this fight against 40 points of models. She's doing her own thing, killing somebody else. I'll tell you what, I like this.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with this.
Okay. So basically,
Now those Grey Knights are going to score proximity alert. Except, did they take proximity? Except, did Grey Knights take proximity alert? And if so, what were they thinking?
yeah.
So it seems to me like that's not an extremely atypical outcome, and it's not a bad one for a player who takes this guy. I just used 20 points to tie up 40 points of models, and
I like this
third
guy.
of your team.
Yeah. Okay.
This
okay.
would be-
We'll
I
see
mean,
how
I-
we'll see how he does tomorrow.
I'm curious.
And if you Cybolted him, you didn't Cybolt my Tempestor,
Yeah.
right?
That's
My
true.
leader's still
You
running
did,
around,
yeah.
rocking it out
That's
just
true.
fine. That ain't bad. I'll tell
Okay.
you what, I
But
like my odds tomorrow.
Okay. So
Here's-
this is the Imperial Guard meta. You heard it here first.
So here's the thing about it, though.
Yeah.
Which I was thinking when we were talking about how they'll try to like get around the Grey Knights. You need to have a psychic sync essentially. You need to have something
Yeah.
that has multiple wounds.
Multiple wounds.
It doesn't matter if it hits or kills or
Yeah.
anything. It just needs to be in close proximity to your models.
Yeah.
So, and you also, so one way to do that is with Chaff. One way to do that is with Gotfret or Pious Vorn or...
Chaff would work because
Well,
you're
so you
not
got to have
gonna be
something
able to-
behind it in order to pack a punch as soon as that chaff is out of the way.
But what is going to be close enough? Because if you have chaff, it's going to be in melee. What's going to be close enough to your chaff in terms of melee that's not also going to get targeted. So say if I have a Lictor and a Hormigaunt, I throw my Hormigaunt in, it's chaff. So that first turn, like the Hormigaunt.
How many points is your Lictor?
Lictor is 25.
How many points is your Hormigaunt?
4.
There's your problem. You got 29 points against 40 points of enemies. Bring some more Hormigants.
Yeah.
No, it's not 40 points.
20 points each.
If I had 2 Grey Knights?
Yeah.
Okay, so no. So even if, say I have 10 Hormigants around them, I also have a Lictor that's also going to be the closest model to them.
No, because you get to choose where that model is. So they're going to be able to pile in the fight phase. But if you're charging, you could put your Hormigants base to base, and you can put your Lictor half an inch away. Your Lictor, therefore, is
So your
not
Lictor
the
would be
closest
safe.
model. So you still
So you have to
dictate.
target the
Now,
closest.
that's assuming you charge. If he charges, then you want to fall back. He's
You
still.
can't fall back if you charge, though.
If he charges you.
You can't
So-
fall back on the same turn.
You'd have to withstand one round.
You'd have to go. What a Lictor
No,
should
no,
do.
no.
Oh, yeah, he's
Sorry, I
talking
meant
about
retreat. I'm
retreating.
sorry, I meant retreat.
He's talking about retreating.
So I'm
He's
saying,
talking about the
I'm just
reaction
talking
that
about,
you can do.
yeah, so
When
who
you
starts the
do.
combat? So I'm saying, if the Grey Knight player is charging me, then I want to retreat the right model in such a way that I know that I might want all my models to be in combat, but I want to move them around in such a way that I can ensure at least, right, that there will be, I want to try and make it likely that my model who I want to keep alive won't be the closest.
No, I'm on your side. And this actually brings back to a point that we've had in a previous podcast about knowing the rules well enough
So
that you
overrated.
can make your team actually viable.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
and-
have just proven the point of knowing a faction really well and knowing the rules well enough that you could beat a standard meta.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm
hope
off my
so,
sword.
man.
You
I hope
just,
so.
You just Excalibured the sword from my chest.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen in this room, let's take a quick break, and we're going to come right back at it with some more Kill Team goodness.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of episode 39 of KnightsCast, our Kill Team podcast. Still going strong.
39.41.
That's
My
right.
hair's gotten so much longer.
And
my
many
goodness.
more.
I'm so much smarter and wiser now than I was.
I still have diabetes, but now I have type 2 diabetes also.
Oh boy.
Getting old. Anyway, so yeah, we're back, and I think now what we want to do is talk a little bit about our campaign that we've been doing. So we're going to start with that. We're going to talk a little bit about some upcoming tournaments and this kind of stuff, and that's kind of the plan for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, so something that Ben has kind of put together that is really cool in our group, he's put together a set of campaign rules that vary a little bit from the standard stock rules that we get in the core rulebook. And me personally, I've been sort of tangentially involved. I've played about 2 games, but a number of other people in our group have played quite a bit more, including Aaron and Ben. So basically, kind of what inspired you to create this set of rules? What really pushed you to come up with this stuff?
I mean, I think that for me, like the appeal of Kill Team when I started playing Kill Team, and I maybe you guys can relate to this. I'm curious, but for me, the appeal was, this is like a small game. There's fluff that I want to be connected to. I want to be connected to my models in a way that I kind of thought I couldn't in 40K if I was playing a game with like 600 orcs on the table. Like, I don't know all of their names and life histories, but I do in Kill Team. I totally do. So that kind of connection was really appealing too, and it seemed like some kind of narrative play or some kind of campaign play, which I had not done almost at all up until a couple months ago. Some kind of a campaign would just scratch an itch that for me I hadn't.
You wanted to see those level 2s, those level 3 specialisms, that sort of thing. You for months you were like, I really just want a level 2 this and that. I just want to see what that does.
Well, it's kind of built into the DNA of the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it's very, very prominent. especially when you first get the core rulebook, and I know that when I was new to the game, I was like, oh, well, that's cool. So you can pay a little bit more and get those levels, and it's like, no, you can't. You have to play campaign to get those extra goodies. So it kind of gives an interesting incentive to play.
And just so so this is something when you first see the rulebook, like when I meet new players sometimes who are just learning the game, and we'll like play a friendly game, and it'll turn out that they're bringing a level 4 specialist to the table or something like this. You're right, that rule is like right there, foregrounded in the book, and it's misleading because how many games have you ever had a level 2 specialist other than a commander, which also is not a very common format? The answer is like, this ain't really happening in the game. So yeah, you do want to.
Sorry, we're getting a flyover.
That's a drop pod.
That's my ride. Gotta go. So that's like a big thing, though. You do want to like feel like your guys are, leveling up and feel like they have this kind of developing story or some kind of an arc. And leveling up.
It's Rambo. It's Rambo. It's the Rambo power fantasy, which is kind of what this whole rules set is kind of built around. So.
I don't know. I'm curious. I mean, so, Will, you played a couple of games, and Aaron, you've played quite a few, and Jesse, haven't convinced you yet.
0.
But, I mean, am I alone in that? Like, do you? Is that a thing that is appealing about Kill Team to just me, or is that?
I mean, I think I said it in like the last episode that we had that I'm kind of over the whole making Kill Team feel like a job. I much prefer the narrative campaign that we're doing, because I mean, the games we've played, these weird cinematic emergent stories kind of happen, and you have these teams that aren't necessarily optimized and they're kind of weird, and you were playing a commander will show up, which never happens in any other experience like you just said. And for me, I have so much more fun playing a game where there's still gravity to it, don't get me wrong, but the gravity isn't like, being able to pound my chest and say I beat you. The gravity is that
look at what my little men did.
Yeah, and it's about them.
Yeah.
They're evolving and becoming.
Yeah.
And when someone dies, I mean, it's a blow, and you're like, oh no, I lost Gorkamork, whatever his name is.
That happened in a game we played, and I maybe actually wept afterward when I got out of the car. It was terrible.
I can blame my Imperial Fists, I'm sorry.
Mary Chapin's died, you guys. Mary Chapin's died.
Now, I will say that it's okay, Ben. It's okay. We're here for you.
Suffer not the Xenos to live.
He's not living.
Now, I will say that, having access to all the rules in the book is for me certainly a really, really appealing thing. And I got to say that the 2 games that I played, I had an absolute blast. Like my theatrical side really, I was able to let loose with that and really kind of role play my Kill Team. The only downfall that I kind of had with the system is that it becomes a lot of bookkeeping.
Yeah.
After the game's over, you have to remember who did what and record it and make sure that everything is accurate, and that's kind of a downfall of the core rule book. Now, you've taken a couple of twists on this whole campaign rules set. So what kind of changes, what kind of homebrew do you guys recommend for somebody trying to do this themselves?
Two things I want to say. 2 things just real quick. One is in response to what you're saying there about having to do a lot of bookkeeping. It is so true. So if you've looked at the campaign rules in the core book, and no harm done if you haven't, you're not alone. And as far as I can tell, campaign is not a very popular thing. But if you've looked at those rules, one of the things you got to do is during each game, you've got to keep track of whether or not each fire team, do we even know what that is? Not outside of campaigns. You have to keep track of whether each fire team has gotten a kill. You have to keep track of, so that means not just how many models you've killed, but which models have killed which models. You've got to keep track of whether or not 2 or more models survived until the end of the match. There's just a lot of bookkeeping going on. It's rough. One thing to say about that I think, if you've ever played like a role-playing game with pen and paper or something like this, good game design doesn't just mean good rules. It also means good graphical design that allows you to intuitively track what's going on in the game and that allows you to follow the rules. We've been really lucky. So one of our buddies who's been playing with us, who we play with a lot, Alex, who also is a player at Darkside Games, did a really, really nice job of putting together some great like online spreadsheets that are interactive and easy to use. They keep track of points in the campaign in a great graphical way, and they keep track of all the important stuff that's going on. So this way you don't need to like remember what you need to remember. It was just a big eye-opening thing to me to realize that like, oh man, graphical design makes game design work, because this is so intuitive to just click through.
And I would say that almost if you had the resources and the know-how, an app to track stuff would be huge.
Yeah, well, and
For
again,
$1.99, guys.
Yeah, for $1.99, get the exclusive Kill Team campaign app. I don't know why I'm old McDonald, but that's the voice I chose, and I'm sticking with it.
Maybe it's like Will the Peddler.
Maybe.
That is a nice mixture of the Victorian era and the 21st century app economy. I like it. Actually, Alex also made a nice little app to select missions randomly, and it is like an actual app. Yeah, I know,
serious?
Right?
Yeah.
Dead serious.
Alex is
This
kind
campaign
of
is for real, dude. Yeah, he's great. He's been doing such a nice job.
He's a Skitari in real life, I'm pretty sure. Tech Priest Dominus, we'll call him that.
He'd be proud, I think. Yeah. So as far as the rules being complicated, that is a thing that does help a lot. There was some streamlining necessary as well. I don't know. Aaron,
there's so many planes flying over my apartment right now.
I spent a command point to get those guys out of reserve. Okay?
They're supposed to fly quietly, which if you're an LA native and you've ever flown out of the Burbank airport, you know that that's an inside joke. But,
Do you know that they have the giant sign?
They have the giant sign that says fly quietly.
And you're like, okay.
That's how it works.
I'm trying to think, what are some other problems or stuff we wanted to address in the rules? Aaron, in those first couple games, did we discover anything about the rules? I'm trying to remember that we didn't like.
Nothing crazy. The thing that it might be putting the cart before the horse, but I think we kind of discovered how awesome going back to your RPG aspect of it. I can't think of any problems, but I think a cool thing that was added was your custom war gear.
Yeah, so... so we did try to make it, to personalize it a little bit. I mean, one of the things that seems really like a concern about the campaign rules in the book is if you've got a level 4 specialist, or a level 3 specialist or whatever, like, does that mean that the game is just going to be totally lopsided? And having never played with high-level specialisms before on the table until this campaign, I was really concerned that, maybe this was just going to lead to a really unfun, super swingy format. So the response, and this is like actually, I'm kind of going in the opposite direction of where I probably should be given what I just said, but the response was to try to add in some other stuff that would round out the game. So some custom war gear that you could not purchase, but that you could get during missions. So we added some kill zone effects and some custom war gear that you could get as a result of kill zone effects. And the idea here was to add in some fairly minor buffs that could add a little bit of texture to the game, but that hopefully wouldn't be too swingy. They would also affect points costs. So, yeah.
These are things that you've made up for the campaign. These aren't
mostly
custom-made creations. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Aaron made up a few. Alex made up a few. We all people chipped in.
Cool.
It was cool. Yeah. And we also we use a D66 for the custom war gear, so we've got 36 options. We use a D66 for kill zone effects as well. So we've got a lot of interesting kill zone effects, some of which are just before the mission, each team randomly assigns one piece of custom war gear to a random team member.
And explain how a D66 works.
So that D66, which is really only used in the core rulebook for naming your guys, which again, you may never have had to do if you're not playing the campaign. You roll 2 D6s. One of them you designate as the tens place, and one of them you designate as the ones place. So like if I roll a 1 and a 6, I got a 16. And so you can get a 11 through 16, 21 through 26, etc.
Sorry, let me fire up the anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah.
This is getting ridiculous.
The
Roll
Battle
out
of
the
Los
Hydra.
Angeles.
Get out the break out the Hydra.
So yeah, the custom war gear has been cool. The one, narratively, what's cool about it is a lot of the missions turn into these fights where not only are you trying to win the mission, but you're also trying to walk away with a piece of custom war gear that you'll have in the next mission. So it just adds this kind of cool narrative texture.
Which you and I, after the first mission, we added in, like, you can pick up the piece of war gear that's dropped by your opponent.
Yeah.
Which I think is, listeners, this is just too cool.
That's pretty cool because then it becomes an item hunt.
Yeah, you wax a model, and you can go run and go grab his gear that he's dropped. Yeah,
Yes,
so you're basically
exactly.
taking bounties.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
It's kind of cool.
It's really neat.
It's pretty cool.
And again, the goal is to make this something. I mean, this is the kind of texture you were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
this is
At
exactly
the
what
same
I'm talking
time,
about.
the goal is to make it so that this is not going to be stupid swinging, and so the game doesn't completely just like mutate into something else. And I think what we've got is this is just a sort of a small diversion. So for my money anyway, this has not taken over the game, but it is just an interesting added piece that's been a lot of fun. Some of the kill zone effects have also been, interesting to
The
play
kill
with
zone
too.
effects are really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just unique stuff that adds a lot of flavor to the game.
A lot of them are borrowed from other stuff, and some of them we just kind of came up with. And again, a lot of players came up with stuff.
And
Yeah,
also, like, the breadth of missions you get to play is so cool. I have to mention, Ben and I, my guard force and Ben's death guard force were like just nemesis, like hunting each other through this
Yeah.
campaign. And the third game that we played, there's a specific commander's mission where our two commanders met in the middle of the field and started the game in one-on-one combat. Which, narratively, is the coolest thing.
That's a good moment.
And it built up for games.
Can I just read the paragraph blurb that was the summary of our first game, because it was just so epic? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
We can-
And to explain, like the document that Alex put together gives you a space to add a narrative blurb after every game.
Yeah, that was the plan. So Aaron's team, which is what is the story for your team, Aaron?
My team is a bunch of they're Drop Force Obsidian. They are a inquisitorial stormtrooper unit that is. They don't have names; they just have numbers. So yeah, that's all they are. They're just kind of mind wiped soldiers from the guard that go out and take care of the Imperium's problems.
And it turns out that they are some bad mammer jammers, as you'll learn in a moment. So our first game, and I'm playing Death Guard, which is sort of new for me. So this was Strike Force Obsidian. Did you say Drop Force? I think I wrote it wrong. I wrote Strike Force Obsidian. But
It's interchangeable. It's fine.
Okay, so we've got the Obsidian guys over here, and my Death Guard guys are the Heralds of the Noxious Feast. So this first game, you'll learn a little bit about Aaron's commander. Strike Force Obsidian rescues Esper and Locarno from no man's land in pitch darkness after his reconnaissance reveals Death Guard incursion. After suddenly turning and shuffling away from their first encounter with Strike Force Obsidian, all the while droning their odd hymn, the Heralds of the Noxious Feast return to face the inquisitorial force once again, and so on and so forth. So we've just got this sort of running narrative that's been, for me anyway, just a total delight to feel like I know who my guys are, and I know...
Sorry, we're just remarking at all, but silently we are all looking up at the skies and wondering if we're being invaded.
It's for the Area 51 raid that happened
That's it.
today, which I haven't seen anybody dying yet.
They're
so I'm
they're
curious.
flying commercial
Yeah, they
jetliners
need to get
out to
them there.
Nevada.
Come on. This is backup.
Yeah, this is like a time capsule episode where we mention a lot of things that are relevant in the modern
Yes,
day.
right
And
now.
Like 3 years later, someone will discover this and be like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
This has not aged well.
But
Just don't forget to Naruto run.
All right, that's what I was just thinking.
But the narrative that has been built up between all these factions has been fantastic.
Yeah.
It's been really great.
Now I want a whole bunch of Aaron's Guard to be painted as Naruto's and running
Yeah.
towards.
You will not do that.
So do you see
Force,
this?
Strike Force, Obsidian, whatever they're called.
So
They will never be painted like Naruto.
do you see this sticking around? Do you see this continuing? Do you see this potentially being shared to the greater KnightsCast community?
For the greater good.
Yeah, right. Well, so to that end, I mean, the thing about the campaign that's cool, right? So we talked about how you've got a connection to your guys. We talked about how you're sort of making your own fluff, how your guys have an arc now. The other really cool thing is you're doing all that in a community setting. Playing competitive games is a community setting too, of course, but here I really feel like my team has a story that connects them to Aaron's team and Will's team and Alex's team and Emmanuel's team and a lot of these other players. I feel like we're really building a community in a way that is just a little different than other ways of playing the game that is really appealing to me.
Because you get to know somebody a lot better this way.
Yeah, and you feel like you walk away and like, their art and their little dudes they painted like figure into your dude's kind of story now. It's a cool thing.
Here's the thing, since I'm the one KnightsCast member that has not taken part in the campaign, that I like. One, it's a narrative story that you actually have that. Two, the community building is really, that's great. You're actually getting a lot of people in, and even having like listeners come in and affect it in the same way. We have that. You have the fact that your army, and yet your army is competitive, but it isn't about being competitive. It's more about the story and the narrative. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can write a blurb down, and at the end of your campaign, you could actually take everyone's blurb and make an epic story as if you're reading a 40K book.
Yeah. I think
it's everything.
It ditches this thing that I think where competitive play has a huge delta for me, where if I lose in competitive play, I've put it all on myself, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
In the narrative game, I lose, and my team has like a vendetta.
Yeah,
it still keeps going.
Keeps going, and they're gonna, they're gonna come back from the ashes.
Yeah,
which I think is
what
awesome.
keeps you invested in it.
Yeah.
It keeps you wanting to play the game, even if you have. It's because it's not about that battle. It's about the war. Mm-hmm. That's a really cool aspect of it. Yeah. And a lot of the 40K is about the fantasy aspect. I think it brings it back.
About stories about these individuals who are, let's face it, the 40K universe is a horrifying place to live.
Oh, yeah.
And so to think about guardsmen, even mind-wiped guardsmen, standing up to genetically engineered, plague god gifted, superhuman, disgusting individuals and like taking the day, that's what this hobby is all about.
Yeah.
This is what this whole game is about. It's about telling these little stories.
There are a lot of miniatures games out there, and what keeps me pretty excited about this Games Workshop property isn't that this is necessarily the best game. I'm not saying it's not. I just haven't really done that homework assignment. But what keeps me really excited about this property is that the story is so fun.
Yeah.
Well, you have the power.
Yeah.
You as, ripping off the old GameStop thing, power to the players. Like, that's really what's... And I think it's cool, too, that you've made unique rules with the community that you're playing with that is directly influencing the game that you're playing, like that you're expanding past what the core rules are. And I think that's a big GW thing too, because as we've stated before, GW is here to make models, not always to make like the actual rules. So, that's GW coming to drop a bomb on
like, no, buy more models. You must always buy more models.
But that actually takes an aspect of like how you want to paint your models, how you want to build it. You might actually make something really unique and custom based on your campaign and not based on play to win.
Oh, totally, yeah. Well, and to that end, so you just said something really important here. So, one concern about campaign play, for me anyway, is that campaign runs the risk of not being inclusive. So if we start a campaign and then 3 weeks in someone says, I want to join, we got to figure out, in the core book rules, we got to figure out, how do we do that? How do we accommodate a new player? I'm sure, for those of you who've played campaigns, I'm sure you've had this happen, and I'm sure you've made it work, but that can potentially be challenging. I really wanted these rules to be inclusive and to make sure that at any time we could welcome any player. So we came up with rules to do that. And so we had this week a listener who just happened to be in town from Baltimore, Paladin Fluff on Instagram. Who is
Philadelphia. He might throw fisticuffs.
So sorry. Yeah.
Paladin Phil.
Sorry, yeah, right. But this was like super cool. So like, not only did we get to like hang out with what felt like a new old friend, like not only did we get to hang out with a listener who was just like a super cool dude, and I think we had a really
That's
good time.
Paladin coming to get you right now.
Yeah, for the Baltimore comment.
He's back. I can get revenge for the campaign game we played. So because the cool thing was he's not participating in the campaign or hasn't been. So we have a special rule to accommodate players who just want to show up and impact the campaign. He made a roster. We played a campaign game. He knocked my team out of the campaign, and then flew off into the sunset. Yeah,
No way.
right? Yeah.
No, he did. He came in. He beat Ben. Then he beat me. Then he went back to Philadelphia. like
Go
a champ.
Paladin! Like, oh my god!
Actually,
That's epic.
yeah, and two things I learned though from Paladin Fluff. I feel like not using a real name is a good idea here.
Yeah. Paladin Fluff.
Yeah, so two things I learned from Paladin Fluff that I thought were really thought provoking. One is he had this great metallic pen.
Oh my gosh.
That is so useful. We'll see if I wonder if he's got pictures on Instagram. If
He does.
He does.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Check him out on Instagram. Paladin.fluff on Instagram.
PHLUFF.
Because he was the winner of our
Terrain?
inaugural terrain
Our
contest.
first terrain contest. Yeah, more of those coming
And
soon.
he won an exclusive Captain and Gravis armor that's gorgeous.
And he painted up the Gravis armor with this metallic pen. And it doesn't just look metallic, it looks like
It's
a perfectly reflective chrome
So wait,
mirror.
It's chrome. It smudges.
He brought the model that
Yeah.
he won
Yes.
and showed.
He has
Oh,
it. He
man.
has it in a cool case. I'm
Yeah.
so
That's cool.
sad you missed it.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Sorry,
But the-
Paladin, I couldn't make it, but I'm glad you had a great time.
Yeah,
As
I
we
mean,
all did. Shout
yeah.
out
The
for it.
chrome is so
It's
unreal. It
gorgeous.
smudges. Like you can leave a fingerprint on it. It's insane.
So this was just a really like useful effect, and I mean you saw on our Instagram and on his. He's just this is a very, very talented painter and modeler, and this was like just a really nice touch. I thought I would definitely follow Paladin Fluff, PHLUFF. In addition, though, he also did another really cool thing. So he's one of those extremely creative people who's made his own custom Space Marine chapter, and he had a little notebook, and after every Kill Team game he plays, he makes just a little like 1 or 2 sentence sort of narrative just to remember what happened, so that he's got a running story for his guys for every game he's ever played, and
that's so
that is
cool.
extremely compelling
Yeah.
to me. I don't like.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. So
I like that. That-
Move to
Yeah.
Los Angeles and teach us your ways.
yeah, right. But yeah, so anyway, I guess among other things, if you ever, dear listener, happen to be in Los Angeles and want to knock me out of the campaign with my new kill team, hit us up. We'd love to hang out with our listeners. And so far, it's been a good thing.
I
We've
am
had a lot
happy
of
that
fun.
Paladin is the one that knocked you out.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Oh,
thing.
he's not the only
Like,
one.
yeah.
That was my
No.
third team to get knocked
Oh,
out.
okay. Cool.
So
Yeah, but bottom line, I do hope this sticks around. I think we do want to. I do want to do a season 2, and it seems like there's some interest in our player base. I do think in general that campaign play seems like kind of the final frontier for Kill Team. That is to say, of all the formats out there, it seems like people are doing this the least, and yet it has so much to offer players. So I think this will stick around.
So, question.
Yeah.
And this might be my crazy mind hackery kind of brain that goes
Uh-oh.
down that route. Could you, in essence, make a tournament, a campaign tournament?
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
starts
Oh,
with
yeah.
set and then end at the end of the day with the victor.
you could
So
absolutely do a narrative thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you?
If you did like an all-day thing or an all-weekend thing, 6 rounds, yeah, absolutely.
We're not even talking about so the other thing you can do is you could do narrative campaigns where you design the story and sort of branching missions ahead of time. We're not even talking about the first campaign I did, which my buddy Chris and I put together, and this also this was a narrative campaign with pre-designed missions that also just like super fun. Campaign plays where it's at. It's great.
So for season 2, I'm proposing a challenge, and this is right off the cuff, and everyone's gonna hate it, but I'm gonna do it on live. Get it? We're doing live.
Let's do it live.
So live, I challenge for season 2 to be an extended campaign thing that starts off with a tournament in the very beginning to kick off the narrative campaign. So
And then it branches from there.
and then you have to branch. And I would say like whoever wins the tournament has the has the throne that you have to dethrone throughout the
Interesting.
tournament.
Are you
my
a millionaire?
counter-
You should be a millionaire.
I
Like,
should
he's
be.
just
I
a-
think
My
he's a
counter
strong-
challenge to Jesse is you have to
ideas.
play in it.
Oh, I play in this.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Really, really awesome stuff. Can't wait to see kind of what comes of that, and I'm sure that we'll have more discussions about this in the future, and
Sweet.
we'll see if we can get this into a format that we can share with people if they're interested. Let us know if you're interested in this sort of.
Dude, this could be another one. Since the 40k universe is so large, and what if you could have 2 campaigns that interacted with each other?
Oh, you're talking a global campaign.
Yeah,
My
so that could
goodness.
start with the tournament,
I think-
and then span
That sounds
out.
like a lot of infrastructure.
Oh yeah, we'll figure it out eventually. That's season 20, but like,
Look, we're gonna take over this scene, okay? And
But this sounds really-
and once we get our global listener base going, the global listeners.
Oh,
hey,
we have a
Twitch,
global
we gotta
listener
global,
base.
we gotta do the shoutouts.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to that.
Well, we can do it now.
We can do it now. Yeah, we
Let's
can
do
do
it
it now.
now.
Oh my goodness. Folks, Velkommen. Those of you listening to us from Sweden, it's so great to have. Okay, I'm a huge stat nerd, so like I'm constantly every single day I am watching how many downloads we get and where the downloads are
He's
coming
not
from,
obsessed, but
and thinking about the numbers and what they mean and everything. I have been absolutely impressed by our listeners in Sweden. And can we just take a moment to reflect on how awesome a country Sweden really is?
I mean, I
cool.
love lingonberries,
Lingonberries, they gave us IKEA.
fjords.
Yeah, 90% of my human being is IKEA.
You're sweet.
So you were
No, I'm actually Norwegian,
Yeah,
but I'm
parents
willing to talk up a
manufactured
fellow
you?
Nordic country.
And now all of our Sweden listeners are turned off. We
Straight
no
in the
longer
toilet.
have any.
so,
Yeah. Thank you, every listener out there for tuning in every episode. We really, really appreciate it.
But we also have new stats from a different country.
Yeah, we also
from
have
down under.
from
from
down
down
under.
under.
Yeah, Australia
I mean,
is.
I love Australian. The Australian coffee scene is great.
Yeah,
Kangaroos. Every animal can kill you.
the Sydney Opera House.
I was gonna say this about Sweden, but it actually works way better with Australia. I'm pretty sure all of these downloads are just one guy in a public library who's trying to learn English.
They
He
speak
came-
English in Australia.
Really though? Really? What about that?
They do. It's not like
And
it's
also,
different.
this is the worst place to come if you're trying to learn English.
Like, yeah, you learned Glistener.
Yeah,
you
you
learned.
learn-
What
you-
was the other ones I've made up in this? In my weird speech impediments?
Explidit.
Explidit. Yeah,
And also, just brief touch on this because we hit on this on the Instagram very briefly. But ladies and gentlemen, we were the number 11th most downloaded podcast in the games category for a day in Switzerland.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey.
you take the victories where you can get them.
Exactly.
And we're like a little snowball going downhill.
Yeah,
We are
absolutely.
gonna pick up the communities and we're just gonna grab all of you and you're gonna just hug you into our giant unstoppable force and then we'll take over.
Well,
And we'll be together as listeners and God, I'm so excited. I love all of you.
That being said,
Sorry.
if you happen to
I'm
find
really
yourself in the Los Angeles area, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on our email, KnightsCast at gmail, KnightsCast2019 at gmail.com,
Aaron
and
is
we
just-
would love to play a game or two with you and join the global community because we just really, really enjoy this thing. We enjoy the community building. That's more or less what we're about.
also, if you happen to find the real Aaron, we'll trade you Alex Jones here for it.
Look, I get excited once a week.
Once a week.
Now, breaking the trend.
I will just say,
Oh, yeah.
I threw out all my American and cheddar cheese, and I'm only eating Swiss cheese for the rest of my days.
Boom.
God bless this great country, and by that I mean Switzerland.
And I'm eating Vegemite
Yes. Exclusively.
exclusively
You're
on toast.
Oh man. Your digestion must
rough.
be a mess.
But I'll get over it.
Guys, you've lost me, so I don't even know what
Yeah, all right.
listeners are at.
Let's get to some non-fluffy, non-narrative material. We've got SEO, the SoCal Open, coming up in about a month.
Really?
Down in Del Mar, California. Big tournament. Potentially a big tournament.
If anyone actually signs up before just showing up.
They are. If you are planning on going to the SoCal Open, I highly recommend that you sign up early. Sign up in advance. It's being run by Frontline Gaming, who are the same entity that runs the Las Vegas Open. They are a fantastic group. They know how to run an event. It should be great. We're going to be there, which is really exciting. We hope that you're going to be there too. Does anybody know what you're planning on running while we're down there yet?
I mean, for my last display, I'll be screaming and throwing my Grey. I'm going to run Grey Knights just because I want to.
Running Grey Knights because we want to. And you've had them for quite a while, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to make Jesse mad.
I mean, you've had them for a long time, and then you said they were crap, and then you didn't play them, and then you
Look, I say
played
something is
GSC,
crap at least
and
once a
then-
quarter or a week.
I know,
I don't know.
but it is
So,
funny.
it's
So
fine.
no, I think Green Knights for you is fair. Everyone else that plays Green Knights, I'm not gonna say what I think about it right now because that would be rude.
That would be me.
That'd be Explidit.
That would be
Explicit.
explicit. Just say that Green Knights hurt my feelings, guys.
Now, speaking of Grey Knights, we said earlier we would talk about another major
See, I don't
What?
believe these stats.
happened weeks ago. It's real. It's real. It's verified. Just peering into the Nova Open that happened a couple weeks ago in Virginia, looking at Grey Knights. Now, this is a win for us, I think, in our general opinion, that there is no meta. Because the top 10, you have first place Tau, second place Orcs, third place Tyranids, fourth place Heretic Astartes, fifth place Demons, sixth place Drukhari, seventh place Tyranids, eighth place Necrons, and ninth place Azuriani. There's one kill team.
What was 10?
That duplicates.
10th place Airplane.
is Orcs, 2, sorry. So 2 overlap. But other than that, it just goes to show there is no meta. Just play what you want. The Grey Knights didn't do terribly well, but we don't know exactly what that situation was.
I'm also curious now, after hearing that list again, how many of the teams that were played were Psychers versus non-Psycher teams?
I can tell you.
Because I think, again, I will say right now, as I go back onto my sword, so Ben's going to have to do the Excalibur and pull it back out.
Excalibur!
I think Psychic, in a way, as of right now, is still an unfair part of the game.
You want to know how many Psyker
Yes.
teams were in the top 10?
Make me eat my words. Please make me eat my words.
1.
Who?
Demons.
Oh,
See, that, okay. Wait, so in the top list.
In the top 10.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the tournament in general.
There was 1. There was... I'm looking at the list right now.
There were 3 Grey Knight players,
1,
so that'd be
2,
4. So
3, 4. There were 4 total.
So
In
the demon and
31.
3 knight and the demon and the 3 Grey Knights players.
Two demons, two
Two
Grey
demons?
Knights.
okay.
Yeah. I think that at top tier play, and if you go to majors, it's going to be hairy no matter what. And I think that goes back to our point where it really depends on how you use the rules.
Yeah.
Knowing the rules. It depends on how well you know your own kill team, how well you know the terrain that's set in front of you.
Uh-huh.
I think that is really a big part of it. I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree with you that the Grey Knights are strong, but I don't know if they are necessarily world-breaking.
I want to eat my words so bad, and that's the first time in history I've ever said that. But I do not want to be right on this. I think at SEO we will see the majority of players bringing Psychic. And if the majority then it balances itself out. I hope not to see that many Psychic teams at SEO.
We'll see. We'll see, and we'll definitely report back what we see and hear and play at SCO. It should be a great time. Like I said, we're going to be there. So if you're going to be heading down to the San Diego area in October, come hang out. We'd love to meet you if you happen to listen to the podcast, and we'll maybe get a couple games in.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, we're just about ready to wrap up. One last note before we go. A couple episodes we talked about that we're going to be branching out a little bit here on KnightsCast, and we've got a really exciting project coming up. We're going to be branching out into playing a game of Dark Heresy. Dark Heresy is a role-playing game system set in the 41st universe, 41st millennium, 41st universe, the 41st millennium. It's going to be grimdark. It's going to be fun. It's going to be GM'd by yours truly. We're going to have our players, Ben, Aaron, Jesse, and also our good friend Emmanuel is going to be stepping in, helping out, and I think it's going to be a great time. So look for that to drop relatively soon. Just so you know, it's not a replacement of the regular Kill Team, the regular KnightsCast podcast. It's going to be more of a supplement. So keep an eye out for that when it drops.
We're super excited about this.
Yeah. the Dark Heresy system is really, really interesting, and it's going to be a great time.
I went out and bought Necromunda models so I could paint my guy, so that's how excited I got about it.
I butchered a Skitarii Vanguard, and I added so many pieces to that poor little dude. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. We can't wait to see what Will's going to throw at us.
Yeah. Closing thoughts, gentlemen.
I mean, I have to calm down.
So
That's what I got real excited. I'm just excited. You know?
The global KnightsCast revolution.
The global Glistener revolution.
Glistener-mageddon.
Oh my
goodness.
Word. This is gonna haunt me for the rest of this existence of this podcast. Is the Glistener.
On that, it's time to end. On behalf of Ben, on behalf of Aaron,
See ya.
on behalf of Jesse,
Bye.
and behalf of myself, thank you so much for listening to KnightsCast episode 328. Thank you so much.
That would be exciting.
See you later.
Bye.